Hi everyone, I'm Vicki Murphy. I'm a Jira Align specialist with Expium, which is a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. And in this video, I'll be breaking down the updates to Jira Align with the release of version 10.115. Version 10.115 was released to Jira Align instances on the continuous release track on December 16th, 2022. That's often going to be your dev or test environment if you have one. And these updates will hit production instances of Jira Align on January 6th, 2023. These updates do have impacts to both Jira Align administrators as well as end users. So let's go ahead and dig in. The first couple updates I have are covering some areas of Jira Align that are going to be disabled due to low use. In the release notes, Atlassian did say that they selected these areas for removal because of their low use rate, and that removing this functionality will allow their development team to focus their defect fixes on more valuable areas of the tool, as well as reducing their testing overhead, which will increase their speed at which they can ship enhancements to Jira Align. The first area to discuss are the collaborate pages. We actually saw a couple of these pages disabled previously in 2022, but now the remaining pages are going to be removed with this release. This does include, as you can see here, the feeds, communities of practice, forums, blogs, and newsletters areas. These areas were intended to collect that internal communication. And in the release notes, Atlassian does advise using a tool that's more designed for this specific purpose, such as Confluence. The way we recommend handling this is to make a plan to move any of your existing documentation in these areas to a different tool. You can do this in a variety of ways. If you want to move to something like Confluence, you can do some copying and pasting. You can, of course, take screenshots. And some of these pages also have save as PDF, save as PNG buttons that you could utilize as well, and then save those files somewhere like a SharePoint. I also want to mention that you may want to redirect any of your direct links to these pages in any additional documentation as well. In the release notes, Atlassian stated that some blog posts may be accessible via direct link post this release, but they will be fully deprecated later in 2023. One quick note, in Jira Align, you can make a communities of practice team. This is different from the collaborate pages. So the collaborate page being a space to actually collaborate, and then the team representing a community of practice team. We can still make those types of teams. However, it's recommended to not fill in the COP page link, as that page is what's going to be deprecated here. Existing communities of practice teams will continue to show their links to the communities of practice page until they are fully deprecated in 2023. Atlassian does recommend collecting all of your data prior to the release of version 10.118 later in 2023, but I would recommend that sooner is better than later with this one. We're also going to see the Trello and RTC connectors disabled. With the Trello connector removal, this will also remove the Jira Align power-up options in Trello. The RTC connector, you may not actually see this already in your instance. This is only for legacy instances. Newer instances have not had this option for a while now. In both cases, Atlassian did specify in the release notes that this is not going to remove any actual data from Jira Align or Trello or RTC. We're just going to be losing that integration between those systems. And really the recommendation here is if you have teams in Trello or RTC that do need to continue syncing their data into Jira Align, go ahead and move those teams over to Jira Software. You can set them up with a Kanban board in Jira Software and set them up as a Kanban team in Jira Align if necessary. I know most teams typically using Trello are often a Kanban style team. We also have a couple of updates for mostly admins. We continue to see some small naming updates in our admin settings. This release actually had over 50 updates, so instead of just showing a big table, I thought I'd just summarize these here. But of course, we've linked the release notes in the description of this video if you want to take a deep dive into these yourself. The first thing that I want to be sure to mention is that after reviewing these, I didn't see anything drastic changing. Really, all these name changes are just making the functionality of the setting or of the field more clear. And also, these are not functionality changes. So these are just naming changes, really just an aesthetic change in the UI. All of these toggles or fields are located on the Jira Setup tab with this release. And as you can see, there are 36 toggles being renamed and 24 fields being renamed. With the examples here, I think you can see it really is just trying to make them a bit more clear. I think this just makes administering the tool that much easier. It's very clear directly in the tool what these settings do. The connector between Jira and Jira Align is also getting a small update. Sprint goals for sprints created in Jira software will now sync over to Jira Align when they are updated. So prior to this release, that field would sync only whenever we created a sprint, but now teams can go back and update those sprint goals at a later date, and they will sync over. I do think this is a more common practice to update the sprint goal after the sprint has been created. So I think this is a great update that just helps teams work the way that they need to. We continue to see some API 2.0 updates with the delete method being available for the entities that you see on my screen here. And the final update is actually a defect fix that is updating how the features estimation system will be determined. Whenever I first read this update, it gave me a little pause and a little bit of confusion. So I thought I would go ahead and describe this using a diagram on the next slide. But really the synopsis here is that moving forward, a features estimation system will always be determined based on the primary program selected. I will say before getting into this that this is a pretty niche situation. I don't think everyone is going to be running into this all the time, but it could occur. And so it's good to be aware of what was happening in the past and what will happen going forward. The background information to be aware of here is, of course, we can have multiple portfolios in Jira Align, and at that portfolio level, we are associating or assigning a estimation statistic for that portfolio. Portfolios can have different estimation statistics from one another, as you see demonstrated here. The estimation system selected at that portfolio level determines how Epic's capabilities and features associated with that portfolio are going to be estimated. This also means that any child programs of those portfolios will inherit that estimation statistic as well. As you can see demonstrated here, we continue to see t-shirt size for portfolio A and team weeks for portfolio B. Of course, in Jira Align, we can make our program increments, and these are also associated with portfolios. And then we create our features, which are associated with a program increment and a program. At this point, you may be wondering, okay, what's the catch here? This is how we expected the tool to work, but this is where the defect lied. Previous to this release, if a program increment's portfolio changed after those features were associated with it, the estimation statistic for that feature would also change. So here we are deriving the estimation statistic of this feature from the portfolio associated with the program increment. Going forward, it's going to shift to always derive the features estimation statistic from its primary program selected. In my opinion, this is a much more logical way to be associating this. It's actually how epics and capabilities already work in the tool, so we're just getting a more uniform experience here. It is very possible that your users may have never been impacted by this defect for a couple of reasons. First, program increments are not often changing portfolios in my experience, especially when we're down to associating a feature with that PI. Typically, that PI is ready to go and it's associated with the correct portfolio, with the exception scenario being if you're doing some major reconfiguration in your tool. Additionally, a lot of times organizations use the same estimation statistic across all of their portfolios, in which case this change wouldn't actually make a difference for your users. This fix to the defect may not have an impact for your users if you're in either of these situations, but of course, do inform them of this update, make sure that they are aware that there could be some changing, and also remind them that if they need to see that conversion of t-shirt size to team weeks or points, they can do so in the grid or backlog views with their column selection. All right, the last updates I want to show you are in Jira Align, so I'm going to jump to the tool itself. We continue to see updates to the new Objectives Tree experience. Real quick, if you haven't seen this view before, it was released with the version 10.112 in 2022. You can check out the release breakdown video or the Objectives Tree experience deep dive video that we have on our YouTube. Those will be linked in the description. And if you do not have this view available in your tool just yet, you can reach out to Atlassian to have it turned on. You can use a support ticket or contact your TAM. The updates with this release are in the column shown area. First, here we have some new columns we can display. We have the story points accepted, stories accepted, feature progress, capability, and epic progress. And we can press apply here. All of these display as these progress bars. Like other areas of Jira Align, we can hover over these to see a percentage and a count of the accepted items in each of the columns. One thing I noticed is that I'm not seeing a limit to how many columns I can add to this view, like other grid views in Jira Align. So we'll just keep an eye on that to see if that updates, but it's really nice that we can add really as many of these as we would like here. We also have some new sort options. The summary, status, team, and target completion and owner fields are now sortable. So you can select the column header here to sort those. As with most Jira Align releases, we do have several defect fixes. As always, we've linked these release notes in the description if you want to dig into any of these and take a deeper dive. That covers all of the updates to Jira Align with this release. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, good luck on your Jira Align journey.